Good morning. Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I meant to do this video last night, but it ended up getting late and I fell asleep. So I hope that you all can forgive me. So I'm going to do a couple of these videos this morning. I just want to share my thoughts about a couple of subjects. And the first one is about the brother Chadwick Boseman. As you all know, the brother recently passed away at 43 years old. He died from stage 3 colon cancer. And it's just, an untimely death. This brother is a major star. He starred in a lot of iconic films. And I just want to take some time to just reflect on the brother's life and his death and also his legacy. This brother went to Howard University. He was a part of major films. He played the main actor in several important films, including this film Marshall, Black Panther, 42, Get On Up, 21 Bridges, and The Five Bloods. And for those of you who don't know, The Five Bloods probably is still on Netflix. If you haven't seen that film, I encourage you to check it out. It's about the Vietnam War, but it's also about modern day times. It's like a reflection on the Vietnam War. It also deals with this quest that some Vietnam War veterans are on. And the odd thing is, in that particular film, Chadwick plays somebody who's deceased. He's like a memory throughout the film. So I think that was very interesting. And one thing that I found out about this brother is that while he was filming a lot of these movies, he was still suffering with this colon cancer. He had multiple surgeries and everything like that while he was acting in all these great films. And one of the last tweets that he put out, his very last tweet, was about encouraging people to vote, encouraging people to support Kamala Harris. He actually took a picture with Kamala Harris. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, just dealing with this brother. First of all, this brother left a legacy, a very important legacy. And that, the fact that this brother died in such an untimely way, it just made me reflect on life. I was talking to my lady and we were talking about the importance of legacy. And, that's something that's so important. Like none of us are promised tomorrow. None of us are even promised today, really. None of us know when we're going to pass away. And the question is, like, how do we want to be remembered? What do we want to leave behind? What do we want to leave as our legacy? And, this brother left a great legacy. First of all, he starred in the movie Black Panther as the main character, King T'Challa. And the reason why it's so important is because I think that's the very first Marvel film that was centered around a Black superhero. So that in and of itself is very significant. Because I remember as a kid, most of the heroes that young Black boys had to look up to were white heroes. You had the Batmans, the Spider-Mans, Superman and all that kind of stuff. Like all of these heroes that young boys were taught to look up to were white. And if you just think about the power of indoctrination that has, where your heroes are white, and then not only that, when you look at your political leaders, when you buy something with your money and you see these white faces on it, that has a powerful psychological impact, and it teaches people in a covert way to idolize whiteness. When I was a kid, all the comic book heroes were white. All the cartoons that we watched with superheroes were white. But here you have a brother who played an African king, number one. Number two, he was a superhero. And, that brings me to the other point about Black Panther. I mean, that movie was so significant because it was one of the few movies that I've ever seen, mainstream pop culture movies that actually celebrate African culture. That movie was a celebration of the potential of African people. Here you had a highly advanced African society, um, a prosperous, developed African society with power that had never been colonized, never been subjected to slavery and all that kind of stuff. A strong Black nation. And, that film, to be associated with such a powerful film is a great and powerful legacy. I mean, this brother, by participating in that film, he helped, you know, enhance or magnify Black pride. Because I remember one of the first things that people would do when they went to see Black Panther is, a lot of people came out in African regalia, they had African clothing on, they were celebrating African culture. Like in some places, people were playing African drums. And that's one of the rare times in my lifetime where I've seen, massive numbers of Black people all around the country celebrating African culture. That is a powerful legacy to leave behind. And that's one of the great things about this brother, the fact that he would play in a film like that. And then he's also played in other films, as I mentioned before. He played Thurgood Marshall, one of the most important civil rights attorneys in our history, somebody who would go on to eventually become a U.S. Supreme Court justice. I mean, that is one hell of a legacy to leave behind, to play the role of such a great Black man and, to honor such a great legacy. He also starred in films like 42, about Jackie Robinson, somebody who broke the color barrier in baseball, broke the color barrier in baseball. And it talked about, that particular film talked about the trials and tribulations. It described the trials and tribulations of the Black community at that time and just the challenges of being a Black lawyer. And it's, that's one of the things that's important. Like Thurgood Marshall was somebody that made a difference, through civil rights litigation, was able to break barriers and stuff like that. And it is great as an actor to have that on your resume or have that as a part of your legacy, that you played a great Black man like Thurgood Marshall. Now, so that's one of the things that I just think about, like how this brother left behind a legacy. Like he could have been like some of these actors who haven't left any kind of real legacy, for instance. This brother played in a lot of different roles, but you have some actors, for instance, who basically play in positions where they're being used to exploit Black culture, where they're playing thugs and gangsters and drug dealers, and those are the limited types of roles that they get. And this whole thing about legacy just made me even think about the legacy here on YouTube that people are leaving. What is your legacy on YouTube? Some people here, if you look at their content, all their content is a bunch of jokes and clowning around. And I like jokes. I like, laughing and stuff like that. And I check them out from time to time. But the question is, do you want that to be your legacy? Do you want your legacy on YouTube to be a whole bunch of videos where you just clowning a whole bunch of nobodies, a whole bunch of people that in the bigger scheme of things, people outside of your particular circle, in the outside world, they're nobodies, like nobody even knows who these people are. Do you want that to be your legacy, a whole bunch of videos where you're clowning somebody? Like if you were to die tomorrow, do you want your legacy to be that you did a whole bunch of videos clowning people and talking about people? Or do you want to have a legacy of impact, a legacy of purpose, a legacy of making some kind of difference in this world? So, yeah, I just wanted to reflect on this brother. One thing that also stands out is, the fact that this brother went to Howard University, my alma mater. That's where I went to college. So it's like, this is really heartfelt, man, to hear that this brother has passed away. And then I know people that are dear to me that have had to deal with cancer and stuff like that. You know, it just makes you just think about how precious and how short this life is. I mean, this brother is young. I mean, he was only 43 years old. Um, Only 43 years old, man. And it's just like it's a scary situation, man. It's like none of us are promised tomorrow. And it's like, what are you doing today to build on your legacy? And you know, it just reminds me of a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. You know, he says that, you know, we should live every day as if it's your last day and as if you would live forever. You know, so it's like we need to have that perfect balance in life. So like if this was your last day on earth, what would you do? How would you live this day? Um, you know, so that's what I think about, man. It's just great that this brother left a legacy. And this whole thing makes me think about what will be my legacy. What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? Just in life, period. And just on YouTube in particular as well. Um, you know, I just think about these things. You know, I think about, you know, what kind of impact will I have? And we should all be thinking about that. We should all be thinking about what do we want to leave behind. And, you know, I, as a Muslim, you know, as a person of faith, you know, I believe in an afterlife, you know, heaven and hell. But I also believe that people live on through their legacy and stuff. And that's why legacy is so important. And, you know, I commend this brother for the great films that he was a part of, you know, for the legacy that will live long after him. You know, his films will be here for many decades and years after he's gone. And people will be able to reflect and celebrate his life. So, yeah, I just wanted to, you know, send my condolences to him and his family. You know, I hope that the brother rests in peace and power. And with that, you know, I'm really interested in hearing from you all, like, what is your favorite Chadwick Boseman film and why? What are some of the other films of his that you've seen and what do you think about them? And what do you want your legacy to be? So with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings. I hope that you all have a great day.